Hi, it's Pseudo. Okay. Hello, everybody. It's Pseudo. Welcome to Top Draw, the 6th episode completely and utterly dedicated to Infinity Wars, mainly because the people over at Infinity Wars Lightmare were kind enough to go, yeah, you can have someone from our team. You can roast them. Heck, do it nice and easy, a little bit of a butter sauce, maybe a little chili spice, cook them real nice, and then feed
Meat
them
tastes terrible with chili.
No, it does not.
Please explain the amount of experience you have eating meat.
No, not meese. Wait, now you're confusing. See, we've already
Meese
started.
Is the plural for moose. Everyone knows this.
Well, actually, have you ever eaten moose before? That just sounds really weird.
I am not a cannibal.
Okay, yes, for those of you who don't know, obviously I am joined by he who is going to be roasted, quizzed, and of course we're revealing our score for Infinity Wars, Teremus.
Hello, everyone.
Although he likes to see himself as this giant stalking animal, I see him as a chocolate kind of dessert. A
chocolate.
Mousse.
I like chocolate. Sounds fun.
Chocolate is
Mises like chocolate.
Ooh, chocolate's... I'm getting hungry, as tends to happen during the shows, because I'm always recording when I'm supposed to be eating dinner or lunch or something else that goes with it. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring some questions that the community has had to you directly. I'm going to basically quiz you and grill you. I'll ask you some tough stuff. But I'm also going to reveal to you the score that you guys are going to be getting. So let's start off with the easy stuff. Let's start off with your score. Because community questions...
You call that easy stuff?
Community questions always get more complicated. Because then we'll end up in this huge discussion and we're going to go places and it's going to be crazy. But I have a feeling some of the stuff we reveal will obviously show up. Now, for those of you who are watching, you are going to see scores pretty much underneath me that are just going to be I give gold stars. Dr. Marshmallows, being the evil man that he is, gives black pentacles. So we'll have black pentacles and we'll have gold stars appearing to show people what we have for these. So we break our shows down, as you have noticed, into 5. So we're covering 5 key things that we believe makes a TCG win or fail. So we'll start off with the first one, which is the introductory content, the stuff that you guys use to teach people about the game. You first install it, etc. Now, we firmly believe that you guys have a very well scaffolded introduction. That whole tutorial thing and stuff that you have, amazing. Especially considering every single time I went to play, you guys added a new tutorial. It was like, what? I still haven't done all the tutorials I thought I did. And there was a difference from where it is now versus when I started. And when I started, it was kind of, I still don't get it. By the time you guys finish, I'm like, I can own this game. I get this. It makes sense to me. However, we understand that there is a benefit to teaching people through experience, but there are some things you need to smack them in the face with. I am one of them. I didn't know you could mulligan on the first turn. Even though you guys teach about the trading post, I didn't know you could mulligan. So I completely spent a good portion of my gameplay time going, how do I mulligan? This is a really weird game. I've never played a TCG without a mulligan.
Fair enough.
So there are...
And that's also one of those things that you can't necessarily just throw in a tutorial. You know, it has to be specialty.
Yes, it does. It has to be specifically designed. I mean, granted, you know, I learned it because the community that you guys have is bloody amazing and really quick to go, you do realize you could do this. And I just like, didn't know that. No. And the thing is, I never would have thought about that because the trading post, it didn't quite occur to me. But that's my thing. Enough. But there are a couple of other things that obviously should be a little bit more smacky in the face with people, such as introducing people to the social aspects of the game. For example, Masters and Apprentices. It's a little hard to find.
Needs to be redesigned.
Needs to be looked at a little differently. But because of that, out of 2 stars for this, both Dr. Marsh and I seem to have decided that we're going to give you a 1.5.
Fair enough.
We were going to give you a 1, but then you guys did this massive overhaul and change before you went gold, and it was like, you guys knew what our problems were before we brought them up. You guys are psychic. It's scary.
We listen, although a lot of there are plenty of skeptics in the community and this industry as a whole that like to believe that developers don't listen. We do.
You guys
We do.
listen. Although I have had some community managers in other games point out when people start screaming, I turn them out. I don't listen to them anymore because at that point there's no reasoning with them. So you listen to a point,
That's one
right?
thing that that's one thing as a community manager that we always have to be aware of. That when people are in a state of rage, especially one that's induced by shock, it's best to just let them rage.
Yeah.
They will not listen to logic. They will not listen to reason while they're in that state of mind. There's no use trying to calm them down. And a lot of people, they'll go off on me for being silent. They'll go off on me for being patient. But when it comes down to it, that's all it is patience.
Yeah. And it's also a small little mixture of the fact that, when it comes to development, it takes time. When it comes to responding to people, it takes time. And if you have a large community, one-on-one time is very difficult, especially if you have other work to do. There is nothing more frustrating. And in fact, we've recently done a show on this. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to have a community and realize that you're spending 95% of your workday not getting things done for a game, but responding to your community. There has to be a line somewhere. So
we can't just sit here and talk about everything that happens within a company. It is a company.
Yes.
And as the community manager, as the PR guy, I have guidelines. And
you also have
while
to be
things
psychic.
may not happen instantly, we will do exactly what is necessary. Sometimes what is necessary doesn't line up with what everyone wants.
There is a phrase we use here at this particular place at MMO Buff. The players always know exactly what they want, but they don't always know what they need. And that's something
for us to figure out.
That is something I am handing over to you with gold lettering, filigree.
I would love to
bake
use
you a
that.
cake. It is so yours. Go
it's
for
such
it.
a good phrase, and it's so true. It's something that I use in global chat a lot. I say it on stream a lot. When everyone talks about balance, especially in each unique faction, everyone has their own perspective of what constitutes balance. That doesn't make you right. It means that you have your perspective, your purview of what you think balance is and what it looks like. Doesn't exactly mean that you have the entire picture in your scope.
Yeah, and it's actually this is going to sound so crazy because this is going out on YouTube on Friday. But Friday night, we have a man called David Serlin joining us. I don't know if you have ever heard of him, but he's created the Yomi fighting game, card game. And he has spent the past several years doing nothing but working on asymmetrical balance within games. And there is something to be said for accepting that rock, paper, shotgun, hi website, rock, paper, scissors isn't always how it works. And balance should never be symmetrical. Ever. There needs to be fluctuation and stuff like that. But let me continue giving you scores.
Accurate.
So our next show is all about the barrier to entry, more or less how complicated is your game. And if someone ever gets it wrong, we stop our shows there. We don't even bother. We don't continue because it's a waste of our time. If people can't get into the game, you can't play it. Why bother? Well, obviously, we knew going into this that we were going to be having a lot of episodes with you guys, including a special 6th episode. We realized that the barrier to entry is pretty darn low, but there is some confusion here and there. And the confusion tends to be from, and I'm going to get Marsh's words on this because Marsh is amazing. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us today because the intertubes near him in Australia have been eaten by sharks. Apparently, they're working for mooses.
It's a common thing.
So he couldn't be with us. But he says, we have a very good mix between the ability to earn and buy power. Not too much, not too little. It's well done on the Goldilocks zone, however. He would like to know how much planning is involved in this, or was it something that you guys did organically?
It's been a process. Everything that we've done in terms of the tutorials and anything that we try and create for a new player experience has gone under so many iterations. And what that's forced us to do is, over time, evaluate how a new player actually views the game. Not just what we're... Not just, what we do as a barrier to entry by itself, but how they actually see Infinity Wars. And one thing a lot of people don't realize in terms of game development, there is a lot of psychology that goes into this. There's a lot of trying to understand the mentality of certain demographics and certain niches that are playing your game. And that affects so many decisions. And as the PR guy, as the community manager, that's a large part of my job, is understanding the psychology behind players. Not the game, but you guys as players, understanding where your heads are at. And that plays such a huge factor in how we address the new player experience, and by and large, how we address that whole pay-to-win concept. Because the pay-to-win concept is a huge barrier to entry.
Yeah.
So all of this entire process is not only connected, but has gone under a ridiculous amount of iterations. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's organic. We didn't come to this right off the bat.
Now this is why
game development is a learning process by and large.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to take my hat off to you guys, because you and the role that you're in, because I'm in the same role at MMOBuff, you have to walk that incredibly delicate line of someone's trying to get a point across to you, but they don't know how to put it into the right words. And you still have to try to figure out exactly what it is they're saying. And there's so many things you have to read into it. And I take my hat off to you because I know how difficult and how complicated and convoluted that can be. But this is also where I get to poke a little bit of fun at Marsh, who's not here to defend himself. Marsh doesn't quite understand that a development process, especially when it comes to the tutorial stuff, is never willy-nilly. Anyone who puts together something on a willy-nilly level is doomed to failure. Yeah. I have to also state, though, you guys have nailed quite a few things when it comes to, you log in, all of a sudden you've got new cards, you do 3 matches, even if it's in campaign. Hey, you've got 3 cards, or a new card, or a booster pack comes in. I mean, you guys give away so many things, whether it's Soulbound, or every time I turn around, there's a new code that you guys are like, hey, go get this, and you can get a new pack for this, and hey, there's trading involved, and there's so much going on in the game to keep people involved. I really think you guys got it right. I think, however, there is a slight frustration because the payment system isn't, it's there, but it's not fully explained to me in the manner that, like, I know that certain things have a certain cost. I don't know how I'm supposed to gain costs or how I get bonuses for things. I have to ask the community. So how do I go about earning all these points? How do I go about spending these points? What can I really do? Does it really have a purpose? And while I love this on one level, I also hate it on another, because not everybody is like me who wants to see a community be successful. Some people are solo players, and unfortunately, they're going to get a little confused. So because of this, out of 2, 1.5 from both Marsh and I.
Understandable.
I'll tell you, you guys are getting scores that we probably wouldn't give out to very many TCGs, because most TCGs get the barrier to entry and introductory content wrong. So horribly wrong. I will go right on the thing and say Hearthstone screwed up. Just saying.
On a professional level, can't touch the subject. As as James, the guy that plays a ridiculous amount of games and loves games, yeah, there were quite a few that got that whole, hey, welcome to our game, enjoy it. That statement right there, that was
your tutorial.
Not really done right.
No.
That's a big important thing. Welcoming someone to your game. The barrier to entry isn't just, can they understand your game? The barrier to entry is, hey, welcome to our game, thanks for being a player, we hope you enjoy it. And if you aren't actually making that statement, why are they there?
See, this is something I got into an argument with about Marsh. He likes the concept because he is a hardcore player. Judge Magic tournaments. The guy is nuts when it comes to math, etc., and trying to figure out the statistics and the probabilities and how he builds his decks and stuff.
He's a theory crafter.
He is a theory crafter, and he's a very terrifyingly smart theory crafter. He scares me sometimes. But he likes the concept of, I can figure out how your game works. Let me just click OK and get all the stuff that everybody would get at the introduction and just pretend I passed them. I should be able to just click that and go. Whereas I said, no, you should be forced to learn what everyone else learns. You should be forced to go through it so you can get a chance to let the game shine and show what it's really worth, what makes it different from another TCG out there. So we have two vastly different opinions on it, but we both gave you the exact same score, which I find really funny. So that's our barrier to entry. Now we get into one of the more challenging ones, constructed and limited playability. And we've had quite a few people get in touch with us about some of the issues that they have in constructed and things like that. And there's the paupers thing as well. You know, I keep hearing in the chat people saying, queue for paupers. I want to play paupers. I'm telling you, community, if you want people to play paupers, everyone should be playing paupers. It's how it works. It's a community-based thing. Bots should not be there.
And Pauper is an awesome format. I personally love Pauper.
I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but that's okay because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go after Nautilus. I'm going to go after Nautilus, and I'm going to be like, dude, you and me, paupers, let's go. Because he has been absolutely sweet and wonderful and very, very helpful and answered quite a few questions. Oh, yes, absolutely. So when it comes to the constructed versus limited playability, you guys have constructed. You guys also have draft, which is awesome, known as your riff runs. Now, unfortunately, this is where we ran into some problems, but it was more UI and design issues sort of than anything else. There wasn't a very clear understanding of how it is that you guys give your cards away for picking the commanders. And then, of course, once you get your draft deck, it's a little hard to see. I've totally made him tired by waking up early, folks. I have drained the Moose of his abilities.
Mooses like to hibernate.
Yes, you do. See, now you're going to make me tired. But it makes it very difficult when we go into draft because you can't click on the cards to see which cards you have. You have to recognize the picture, then go find the picture somewhere. So obviously design-wise, and I know you guys have new design concepts coming for 2015, so I'm not overtly worried about it. But if you guys were able to fix that problem, Marsh and I would give you a 2 out of 2. So for right now, for understandable reasons, when it comes to the riff runs, when it comes to the constructed play, we just give you a 1.
Understandable.
But this leads to a question that we've had someone bring in about matchmaking and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to questions we've had from the community. Because community, you guys have questions. Apparently a lot of them. So are you guys working on any methodologies to make the queue time shorter? Matchmaking, maybe? There's nothing more frustrated than a new player like myself who tends to not be the best player in the world, who just really enjoys card games with their friends, and you guys have really pretty pictures and baby drop bears, which means I'm automatically sold on a game. But going in and having your ass handed to you by someone who really understands what the hell they're doing because they have a massive bloody level. So are there any things being done to help balance the matchmaking out?
Here's the problem with this. It's not actually an issue with the algorithm. And I know a lot of our players have seen me address this, both in-game, on stream, on the forums, on Steam, even on Facebook and Reddit. I've done it there too. The problem with matchmaking is the inherent issue of an indie game. We don't have the player base that a game, say, from a studio like Ubisoft, a studio like Blizzard. We don't have their player bases. We don't have their IPs. We don't have their players to pull from. And we are trying, as any indie studio out there in the world will tell you, we're trying, but it's a difficult grab. You are essentially an unknown and untrusted developer. And we have to get people into the game to not only trust us as developers, but enjoy our product. That second one's the easier part, because Infinity Wars is awesome. But the first one, it's a challenge that any indie developer out there in this world, if you go on Twitter and literally search for the hashtag IndieDev, you will get a wealth of knowledge and understanding.
Understatement.
Yeah, you need to understand that the life of an indie developer is vastly different from what your understanding of AAA developers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying. I assure you of that. We are trying. The problem with matchmaking inherently is that we have to be very lenient. We don't want. I don't want anyone to glean from this that the situation that Miss Pseudo, or over here, Miss Pseudo said, in regards to a fresh player getting their ass handed to them. I don't want anyone thinking that that's something we want happening. In no way do we want that happening.
I wouldn't imply that you did. It's just, it is frustrating when it happens.
I know how some players, they hear things that they want to hear, and there will always be some doomsayers out there that enjoy listening to some employee of the studio of the game they want to bash. They'll just hear something bad and they'll go off on that subject. The point is, it's not something that we want, but it's also at this time not something we can stop, because it's either you get your ass handed to you or you don't play a match.
Right.
That's the problem we have to run into right now.
So the problem you're actually running into is you have so many people who are enjoying the game and doing so well that they're going and leveling so fast and playing so much Infinity Wars that the new players who are coming in are at the gap. Because everyone, once you get in, you're in and you're like, woo, I'm all for it. But then, that's a really tough place to be in, because that basically means success is very difficult for you guys.
Yeah, it is. The point is, people get into Infinity Wars at a slower rate than people are growing in the game. So you have an overabundance of the mid-tier player where they're probably level 10, level 15 plus. And you have those people playing the game at a faster rate than you have new accounts being created. And you don't hear exactly what you said all the time. Obviously, someone who experiences that believes that there is an inherent problem. I'm admitting, yes, there is an inherent problem, but not every player faces that.
Right.
There are plenty of new players that come into the game and do get properly matched. But those people also, and again, this goes back to my job as understanding the mentality of gamers, those people who have a good new experience aren't the people who are going to go on the forums and complain. You know what I mean? The people who have a bad experience, those are the people who will voice an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have only the people that are voicing an issue and no one corroborating the opposite side of that problem, new players are led to believe that there's only one side of the issue, and there isn't. The new players who are having a good experience simply won't voice that. If you'll note, and it's especially true on things that ask for reviews. So, things like game applications on your phones, when they ask for a review, if you had a bad experience, you are really going to inform them that you had a bad experience. If you had a good experience, you're just going to keep playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all people see are those bad reviews. More often than not, that's all you see is a bad review. You don't usually see something that is a gleaming, glowing review unless it's coming from a journalist. Because the journalist wants to, they want to say something no matter what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of want to be blunt. Although I will say, I'm starting to wonder if you talk as fast as you type.
Faster. I type a lot faster than I talk.
It's interesting.
And sometimes my fingers work a lot faster than my brain, and then I have to backspace a lot.
Yeah, I know that from you. Actually, for me, it's Shift-Tab. and a couple of other shortcuts, shift home, in order to just quickly get rid of the words.
For me, it's just like it's just like a few letters, because my brain is my fingers are a few words ahead of where I was thinking, and then I realize, wait, I shouldn't have said that yet, so I start backspacing it. Yeah.
Well, there we go.
I type really fast.
So we'll move next into innovation in design. This goes to, do you guys have what we think is a really interesting concept that sets you apart from other TCGs? The answer is hells yeah. The concept of the commanders is such a unique concept. Throwing in the trading post, although I swear it needs to be more in my face. I always forget that the damn thing is there. You know, it's like I was playing against Nautilus last night, and we were going through, and I saw the turn go through, and I saw trading post, and I went, oh yeah, I should do that next turn. Bloody forgot the next turn. You know, it's one of those things. It just kind of needs to be in your face a little bit. But yes, so the commander concept.
It's one of those things that takes a lot of experience in terms of playing Infinity Wars, understanding not only when to hold on to your cards and when to utilize the trading post, or when to do a combination of each, because it's not always necessary to deplete your hand. Sometimes it's just necessary to be patient. And like we said earlier in this broadcast, being patient is a learned and acquired skill.
It is.
It's not something you're just born with.
But you see, this is the thing. To me, this is what will make the metagame so exciting. It's the people who actually understand and make use of the tools properly. Because one of the things I had to learn when I was learning how to play TCGs more, like, I was about to say fecundly, but I don't necessarily think that's the right word, but more prolifically play TCGs, was the fact that just because you have the resources doesn't mean you should be putting your cards on the board.
Absolutely.
And you have to figure out when is the right time, when is not the right time. And I love that. But that damn trading post, I'm telling you, it is my kryptonite. The trading post is my kryptonite. I love the concept, love it, but it's my bloody kryptonite.
Right.
Now,
and it's something I see on YouTube videos and streams of new players all the time, where they end their turn with 3 resources and 4 cards in their hand, and I'm sitting there going,
Maybe you need to force the trading post to have its own tutorial for everything that it does.
Right.
You know, who knows?
To be fair, I designed the Academy.
Did you?
And the Academy was my baby, because I understood, players need to understand these specialty items. So I designed the concept of what the Academy is, how it's staged, and what's covered in it. And then our PvE designer created it.
I'm going to take my hat off to you for that. That's one of the reasons why I've scored so highly for that introductory content. Because seeing that, I mean, everyone has tutorials, but then seeing that extra next step, that just blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. So,
appreciate that. For someone who's trying to, we're purposefully creating a game that is designed to be more complex and in-depth and more mind-tasking than other games potentially on the market. And if we're purposefully doing that, why should we not give you the tools needed to understand each aspect? Well, perhaps, and I'll be the first to admit, perhaps those tools aren't necessarily fleshed out, but we do understand the existence is necessary.
Well, absolutely. The thing is, you guys have such a creative concept. I mean, the trading post is one thing. The Commander series is another thing. The support zone, defense zone, assault zone, absolutely crazy. But what really blew me away about what you guys came up with was turns happening at exactly the same time. You can draw in this game because you both
and it's a legitimate
kill each
draw.
Other. And it's,
exactly. It's a legitimate draw.
And it's like, wow, that is bloody crazy. And my brain just exploded, and I was like, wow.
And I've actually seen it really early on that people were criticizing us for the ability to draw in the game. And as a card gamer, a guy who has played card games for a very long time, I in no way understood that. The point is, if you understand you are in a losing scenario, you actually have the ability to plan for a draw. You have the ability to set it up so that you can draw and have a no decision rather than a loss.
Yeah.
That is a skill. It's not taking a loss from someone away. It's not taking a win from someone away. The point is you are preventing either scenario based on your understanding of the board and what can happen.
Yeah.
Draws can only be a good thing.
Oh, yes. Oh, hells yes. So when it comes to that stuff, we absolutely love you guys with the innovation. I mean, the game you have is simple enough to get into, especially with the way the tutorial in the Academy is set up. I will tell you, I can play the game because of it. I am one of the more casual members of TCGs, where Marsh is, I'm going to come in and I'm going to ravish people and I'm going to sacrifice them to the small animals, and then I will summon a baby drop bear because he's from Australia and he loves his baby drop bear. I'm just going to tell you. That's on him. He totally gets it, but I would not have understood, because this is an immensely complex game. It can be very simple if you just like, okay, I have 3 commanders, I can do the default, I can do the attack, and I've got the support zone, which is technically kind of like res sickness or summoning sickness. And, you can look at it that way. Or you can look at it and go, right, I'm going to trading post this time. I'm going to move this from the attack to the defense. I'm going to shift this one from my commander down to my attack. I'm going to then activate this ability. You start getting into an incredibly complicated system of interactions and synergy that sets a tempo. And it just starts to go really, really crazy. And it just makes the game, to me, even as a casual player, that much richer.
And that's all about the user experience, right?
Absolutely.
Understanding that a card game, this is one of the principal mentalities we designed Infinity Wars with. It's not just about the cards that you have. One of the biggest issues that past TCGs have faced is deck versus deck. And deck versus deck has created probably one of the largest barrier to entries for any card game. If you don't have these cards, you lose. If you do have these cards, you stand a chance.
Yeah. It's definitely known as balance, and one of the most complicated methodologies of game design, and everyone is still working on it. There hasn't been a definitive, this is the answer. There is no such thing.
There is no right answer to balance. And this is a phrase I constantly use, and I'm still waiting for the industry to understand the accuracy of this phrase. Balance is consistently subjective. There is no right answer to balance. There is one answer one day. The following day, there may be another answer. The next month, there is a different answer to balance. There is always a subjective response to the concept of balancing a card game. It is never one single answer. It can't be. Well, if there is one single answer to balance, you're inherently doing it wrong.
And see, this is something that I agree with you with to a point, but I would throw out a counter argument to it, and that usually ends up having to do with looking up matchup charts and things like that. And that is a debate I will be getting into a massive debate with David Serlin, who spent years doing this research about balance, and he thinks he has the answer. So I'm going to be all in his face, and you really should just come, if nothing else, sit in the chat and be like, yeah, but what about this? Because we're bringing him on with the intent to cause controversy, because he thinks he's got it. I think he's got the right idea. I don't think it's 100%, but we'll see.
The only thing I will ever say to someone who believes they have the answer, simply understand that answer may change. Don't ever say that you have the 100% accurate answer to this question, this problem. The scenario itself changes constantly. Thus, you cannot have one answer that is concrete throughout.
See, I would say you can have one answer that's 100% for one game.
Fair.
Because if you have a particular certain style of game and you've figured it out for that game, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for another game. Doesn't mean it's going to work for another situation. But
And as we'll talk about later in this broadcast, because I know you have a different question to ask me.
Yeah.
The people at Lightmare, including myself, will be the first ones to tell you that we've had to go under some serious iterations. As I said earlier about a different subject, you don't just start doing it right. No. That's not how game development works. You have to learn. You have to understand certain things. We can go into the development of Infinity Wars with a concept. That doesn't mean the concept is always going to be right throughout the entirety of its lifetime. We have to learn, and we have to adapt. So.
And I know where we'll be going with that adaptation, so I'll just cut that off right there.
Right.
The other part of innovation goes down to the user experience itself, down to the UI, etc. Now, because of the fact that I am the way that I am and the fact that I have quite a bit of experience in UX, etc., sadly, unfortunately, Marsh and I only give you guys a 1 in innovation and design because innovation gets scored highly, but the design... do you know how long it took me to find masters and apprentices? Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that really hurt me. And then, of course, the statistics and everything that goes with draft, not being able to see your cards and things getting... Mad props to you guys for working on the trading post or the trading shop where you actually trade with people. That got some work. And I know more is coming, but just going on where we're at today and age, sadly, you get a 1. Yep. I will tell you this, though. I am seeing, and this is one of the things that I think is kind of unique. I mean, we've had to spend a couple of weeks longer on Infinity Wars than we had before because I've had some severe injuries, etc. So it's kind of hampered our ability to do it successively. But it's allowed me to play the game and see the iterations you guys are doing. And I will tell you, you guys are the very first card company I've seen with almost a 2-week irritation. You guys are irritating with a 2-week iteration cycle. And the cycle itself was just pre-launch. And, it just showed that you guys were paying attention and trying to fix things. And anyone who sits there and goes, yeah, well, every time they fix some bugs, you got new ones. I hate to say it to you, but welcome to development.
The people who say that can't happen if you're testing, that is absolutely incorrect.
If you've got a QA team that is paid millions of dollars and is sit there to do all the different types of possible testing that they can do, sure, you're closer.
Yep.
But,
you want to tell anyone who's watching this broadcast, if you've ever played World of Warcraft or League of Legends, tell me one single patch that ever happened that didn't introduce a bug. I love those companies to death. They are ridiculous, they are large, and they are awesome. That doesn't mean they're perfect.
No one's perfect. God, the world would suck if people were. Ugh, that's boring.
We'd all be awesome, and that'd be boring.
It wouldn't be awesome anymore because to be awesome is to be fear-inspiring and something magnificent. And if everybody
was... Teremus?
Teremuses are special.
Aw.
They have their own category.
And by special, you mean...
Special, special... one of those. But yes, so that leads us into our last particular one, which is actually going to lead into community questions and things, because our last thing is about community content and interactions. The only thing I can say on this is bloody fucking hell, you guys as a community are mind-blowing. And I love you, Teremus, and I love you, Lightmare, but shut up, I'm talking with the community for a second. I have never in my TCG life experienced the support, the people coming forward to talk and share information. Even when I've made mistakes in trying to understand a concept and discussing it in one of our shows, you guys have stepped up, pointed it out, and then when we fixed it, you guys didn't sit there and call us names. You're like, great to see you guys got it. You guys are starting to learn. It's good to see. I have never experienced a non-toxic community when it comes to TCG that actually let the people talk to each other. So you guys fucking rock. Cool. You can come back in, Teremus. I just really had to let the community know that they were friggin' awesome. Now,
no, they are, and it makes my job a lot better. Honestly, they help me do my job because I don't have to sit there and worry about whether or not someone is going to come into the game and be abused by someone saying, "Hey, you're new, and that means you suck." I'm really proud of the players for actually being a community rather than just being a collective ego.
I will tell you. One of the things I like to do while I'm going through and doing campaigns and stuff, because I'm more of a PvE player than I am a PvP player. But one of the things I love to do is read the chat. And the amount of arguments, if you want to call an honest intellectual debate an argument that occurs over, say, cards or anything else like that, it's exciting to watch, but it's actively going on. It's engaging. And I honestly, I've been blown away by the community itself, the fact that people respond. One of the very first times we broadcast this, because we were still doing through Twitch at the time. Now we're doing everything through YouTube, which makes things easier because I can sleep. But one of the things that occurred was someone came in and we were talking about draft and stuff, and the writer of the post, and I want to shoot myself because I don't remember who it was, the one who wrote the post about Introduction to Rift Runs. I can't remember his name.
The original one? Unless I'm mistaken, it was called A Guide to Rift Running?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, familiar with it.
Just showed up and said, here. And I just was like, whoa. And Marsh was in touch with them. And everyone was so eager to try to share knowledge. I know for a fact you could have the best game in the world, but if your community sucks, the game sucks too.
Right.
And it can fail. And
Mzudim, Rift Runner's Guide to the Galaxy. Awesome title.
That is a brilliant title.
I love the title.
You know, that's only one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is what you guys do with your community. Now, I'm going to give you my score, and then I'm going to give you my total, because we're going to get into some of the things that you guys got planned for the community, and I want to take my hat off to you for this, because I have never in my life run across a TCG where I've given 2 out of 2 until today.
Appreciate that.
I'm honestly blown away. I mean, yes, I'm kind of blaming you for the various earthquakes and mistakes of us trying to get our time streams to cross, but when it comes to Top Draw, we bend time, we bend space, and we order pizza from the 13th dimension. We're weird. So I don't fully blame you. I think it's the curse of Top Draw.
Pizza. I now want pizza.
Yeah, but both Dr. Marsh and I gave you 2 for the community. For the community, the content that you offer the community, the content the community offers to you, and the interactions. Honest to God, that can only be gained by having a community that is awesome as you guys, and as much as you guys put into that community. And I know, and we'll get into some things. I know some people have complained, oh, they're not getting in touch with us enough. They're really not listening. Don't worry, I'm going to grill the moosey on some of these things. But this does mean, out of 10 possible stars, you guys have gotten 7. That is unheard of from Marsh and I. Like, I think one of the last ones we did was 3.5.
Just for my own personal knowledge, what game was that?
Trying to remember.
Was it a TCG?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a TCG, browser-based TCG.
The fact that you actually can't remember the name of the game offhand tells me more than I need to know.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like I can see it. It takes like 4, max 5 turns to play. I think maybe we gave it 4 stars or something like that. We didn't really give it that many, but
4 or 5 turns for a card game.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It was interesting.
Sounds so boring to me. Like, as a gamer personally, that sounds so boring.
Well, there's a reason
that's not enough time for any strategy to really be inherent.
There's a reason they scored low, sadly, but
It
but
just
the
sounds
fact that I
boring.
don't remember their name really kind of bugs me. But at the
Yeah,
same time, it does say an awful lot. So
yeah, it answers the question. So
yes, and this is what Dr. Marsh and I both agree with when it comes to this game. And then we're going to get into those community questions. Our firm belief is just go get the game. Play it, experience it for yourself. It is not Magic the Gathering, which is both good and bad. It is not trying to be Magic the Gathering, which is really good. Because if it's not Magic the Gathering and it's trying to be, then something has gone wrong. Look at it with open eyes, experience how it plays, figure out why it's fun to play. In our experience, this is one of the better TCGs out there right now, and you would actually be doing yourself a disservice if you did not at least give it a go. So don't disservice yourself, folks. Go, get it, play it. That's our opinion. So that's what you get from us, and those are our thoughts. So are you ready for me to dig into something that seems kind of cool to me?
let's do it.
Let's talk about the Infinity Wars Council.
Okay.
So you guys have one. This is another reason you got 2 out of 2 stars here. So how does this work? I mean, what exactly is it? I mean, I've heard through various places. I've heard one person say the council just, helps out occasionally. I've heard another say they're quality assurance. I've heard another say, I don't know, I've never heard of them before. So maybe start out by saying a little bit about what it is and what the purpose is for the council.
Okay. So there's a question that a lot of people ask. They want to know, do you even listen to your players when you make balance decisions? Do you even ask your players questions? Do you talk to high-ranking players? Do you talk to your mid-tier players? Do you try and get information from them? Yes. That's what the Infinity Council is. It's a funnel of information. It's a funnel of different thoughts. It's a funnel of different mentalities, and a funnel of different styles of gamers. The Infinity Council is something I created. The community guy. Because it helps me to understand the mentality of gamers. It helps our design team to understand who they are, what they're thinking, and how they respond to certain things. At the very core of these players, they are gamers. They are not quality assurance testers. They are not paid contractors. They are not people who are employees of the studio. They are gamers like you. They play Infinity Wars, they enjoy the game, and they are so interested and vested in the success of this game that they are willing to deal with Lightmare Studios on a volunteer basis to help us create a better game. That question that I keep seeing, do you listen to your players? Yes. That is what this team is. The Infinity Council is such an important role in our balancing efforts and creating Infinity Wars as a whole. The thing is, I also see a lot of people ask, what's the beef between the Infinity Council and Lightmare? There isn't one. All of these people are a team with us. And for a while, there were 1 or 2 people that spoke up that had some issues with us. That's fine. People can have issues with game developers. That doesn't mean that the team as a whole shares that same sentiment. It's 1 or 2 people. Thank you. I'm just going to
leave it there.
Yeah. But well, the point is, again, game development is a constant iterative process. It never stays in one place for one purpose at any given time. It has to keep learning and moving. If it's not, it's going to get stale and it will fail. That rhymed. I'm proud of myself for making that rhyme.
You deserve a cookie.
I love cookies. Mises love cookies. In order to learn, you have to continue to listen. Because just hearing one side of the story doesn't give you all of the information you need. and you have to get as much information as possible in order to make an educated move, an educated statement, an educated direction.
Mm-hmm.
You must have information. That is the most important weapon in game development, is understanding.
Yeah.
That's
actually
why
comes from the player side as well. It's having that understanding of what it is that's actually being done behind the scenes. I think so many people think that when it comes to development, it's ignore the man behind the green curtain kind of syndrome. They kind of only see the output of the massive Man of Oz, not really realizing that the Man of Oz is this little guy pulling 90,000 levers trying to make everything work.
Right.
So you put together a council of people. How do you pick them?
These are very different subjects. And
are these subjects for testing, or do they have like little serial numbers attached to their name?
No. The subjects aren't the people. The subjects are how I pick the people.
Okay.
The subject boils down to who they are as a gamer. Does that mentality, does that person bring us as developers something of value? And more often than not, value is seen in wisdom. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge for various different reasons. Everyone in the Infinity Council serves a different purpose. So, let's say CCs. Most people in this community are familiar with CCs. CCs is an exceptionally experienced Exiles player. We need that. Not just because we want someone who understands the faction to help us design them, but because they are the prime example of what a given response would be for a certain action we would take.
Okay.
They will show us exactly what we need to know, not just for designing the faction, but for doing something to the game that involves the faction. What kind of response would the community have to that? CCs will tell us.
Does the council sign an NDA?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like they can go running around going,
undergone
we've tested
some exceptionally... Yeah, no, they can't do that.
Right.
The council has recently undergone some exceptionally large structural reorganization, simply because, again, game development is a constant iterative process.
Yeah.
We didn't do it right the first time. You almost never do something right the first time. No matter what you're talking about in life. It doesn't matter. It's not just game development. Doing it wrong the first time lets you learn. Life lessons. Doing it wrong the first time is not a bad thing. Learn from it.
The more you know.
Pretty much.
I just need a moose with a rainbow.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Do antlers. The point is, we had to change what we were doing in order to do things better.
Right.
And the way we did it the first time worked, but we didn't have our processes working right so that we could use the Infinity Council to the full benefit of what they were designed for. So we had to undergo some structural changes, and the Infinity Council is not only doing a lot more work, but that work is also yielding a lot more results for us as developers.
Right.
And this is part of something I'll talk about in another question. Some things where we had to review our own processes, our own thoughts and mentalities behind certain things. Absolutely. And the Infinity Council is doing a lot of good for us as a company. And again, it's because they are not paid quality assurance contractors. These guys are players. And the kind of information that they bring to us as a company cannot be stated in its value. They do so much good for us, and I love working with them on a daily basis. They're just a great group of people. So anyone who ever has any questions on whether or not we do in fact leverage the Infinity Council, just ask one of them.
I love the fact that you've used management words here. We leverage the Infinity Council. That is so management. That is... I almost want to put my management bingo card here.
I am a manager, and I've been doing it for a long time. But I'm going to use that phrasing.
Is it
every now and
synergistic
then.
with what we're looking at with the low-hanging fruit?
I wanted to take an innuendo with that, but I'm not going to.
Oh,
this is a
great.
PG broadcast, people.
Yes, remember, the mooses you know. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to randomly tackle some of the questions that have been brought up from people. Sure. We've had some questions come in, some things I'm actually just really kind of curious about, and some things Marsha's really curious about. So get ready to be blindsided.
Bring it.
Let's take what I think would probably be the most controversial thing of all, a rumor mill. Rumor mills are popular. People like to talk. They like to think they know what's going on. That's, I think, one of the funnest things about being involved with community management is watching how the rumor mill works, because it lets you kind of get a pulse of where your community is at. And sure. There's been a rumor kind of being tossed around that there are factions that are getting hung up to dry.
Right.
Are you really putting a noose around factions?
The concept is a lot broader than that.
Okay.
And we can't just say, hey, a faction's getting nixed. We're just slicing them across the throat. They're done. They're going away. No,
leaving them in a back alley, stealing their wallet.
Yeah, that's not. The biggest thing about Infinity Wars, and this is both a really good thing and a really bad thing for us. And this is part of that review process that I talked to you about. We had to go back, and to be fair, we probably should have done this earlier in the game's development, probably back in beta, but it is what it is. We had to do it. It had to be done. We had to gain a different understanding of where we're at with the development of Infinity Wars.
Okay.
And with this review, we not only realized that, and this is something I said earlier, the way we started was incorrect.
Interesting.
The way we started the development back in 2013 of I'm sorry, not even 2013, 2012. November 2012 is when this whole process started. We started wrong.
Wrong in what way?
Wrong as in it wasn't the best way for us to handle the development of Infinity Wars moving forward.
So this
simply
is
because
a lessons learned type thing then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We thought going into this is the way we have to do it. However, now we're realizing that what we did and what we're doing now are two very different things. And it's causing a lot of imbalances. The point is, you cannot have, something becomes stale. If it becomes stale, it runs out of design room, and it is no longer fun for players to see new concepts for it.
And it's a killer for TCGs.
Concepts. Absolutely.
I mean, metagame is supposed to be ever-evolving. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, it's what a lot of people are talking about in-game right now, the whole mill deck. I've said this in so many posts, but seriously, it's not a mill deck. And I'm sure your friend Marsh, the guy that unfortunately couldn't join us today, he'll be happy to tell you the deck that you people continue to talk about is not a mill deck. It is an AoE stall. The only thing that is mill is demonic presence, and that's not actually mill. I appreciate that everyone is calling this a mill deck, but seriously, it's not a mill deck. Like, as a card gamer and a guy who somewhat functions off of some various portions of OCD, it is not a mill deck.
Wow! Learning about mooses from the moose's mouth.
It's an AoE stall. That doesn't change the problem of the fact that a lot of people view this as what is the meta. And I just want to state this. In our metrics, from us looking at the numbers in the system, mill is played a lot less than you realize. It is only a problem in 3 MMR brackets. That is where it is played consistently. outside of those MMR brackets, Mill is played less than 8% of games.
Interesting. Okay.
Take with that what you will.
Okay.
Mill is a lot less of a problem than people realize. Mill. I'm going to keep doing that. Mill.
Little buddy foo-foo, hopping through the forest.
So, meta is a revolving door, as you said.
Yes. If it's not, your TCG is dead.
Absolutely. A month ago, people would not have been complaining about this deck because that's when the deck was invented. The deck was invented, it beat someone, they caught on to it and said, wow, I like what that deck is doing. And that caused a chain reaction of people saying, I like what this deck is doing. I'm going to play it for myself. Now everyone realizes that that's a deck that's going to win simply because people aren't countering it. And again, I understand where the players are with this. There isn't a huge amount of counterplay to the deck, but that's something I'm going to address in another question later on as a result of our design review. And it's also in a post that I'm going to be putting on the forums as soon as it's approved. Now, Mill is a problem. What is a bigger problem is where it's placed. And that's why this faction rotation question is a thing. Sets are designed...
Faction rotation thing?
Yep, faction rotation thing. I'm not going to say on this interview what exactly the concept is, but in order to keep the game moving, in order to keep the game fresh, things must change.
Yeah.
It is not such a 2D concept that a faction is simply going to get nixed, killed, and, as you said, left in a back alley. It's not that simple. We designed Infinity Wars with these factions as a difference to the way MTG does its colors. The colors are a constant changing concept, and you can't become associated with a color. You can become associated with a lore concept that the color introduces in a different set or block.
Yeah.
With Infinity Wars, we introduced factions. Again, this is a good and a bad thing for us. The good is that we wanted to create a concept similar to MTG's colors, but allow you to have more of a personal connection to these creations. As I said, you don't become associated with colors in MTG. You can identify with the colors, but that's because there was something created in a set or block that you can identify with, and you can become affiliated with the understanding that it is eventually going to rotate. But you can still play your color. That's not changing. It's just that the lore changes. So the faction design coming. Well, the lore is going to continue to evolve.
Okay.
And we have to move the story forward. Okay. However, gameplay comes first. Gameplay will always come first. We'll design the lore around our decisions with gameplay. But the problem with factions is, yes, it's a really good thing, because people get emotionally attached to these factions. They love playing their factions. They love collecting every card in their favorite faction.
COV,
exactly.
DOD?
Yep. Absolutely. But that's also a problem, because you can't just have the same factions over and over again for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You may not realize that right now that that's a bad thing. However, if you're constantly designing cards for the same faction, that will get stale and run out of design room very quickly.
Well, it also ends up in situations where you end up with banned cards. I mean, if you want to use MTG, which is sort of the granddaddy, grandmommy of the TCG
it's what everyone will compare anything to.
Well, obviously, because it was...
And for good reason.
Yeah, it's very good, although their implementation of their online game is crap. You guys definitely have a much better implementation UI-wise than they do, and other things that go with it. You just need to get me something, and I'll get to that question with the wiki face
looking
later.
At you, Wizards, you can actually make your own deck in Infinity Wars.
Just saying. So,
Just saying.
yes. So when it comes down to the concept of this sort of need to evolve and to keep the game going, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to Magic the Gathering, they would bring out editions. They would bring out various things for that. Now, I'm assuming that that's sort of what we're looking at here is additions, or are you guys going to throw that out and go, we have something we feel is better?
We have something that we feel is more tailored to how Infinity Wars is designed. I don't want to say that it's better, because as something that we talked about earlier on this broadcast,
yeah,
each game has its own unique concept. And for what MTG is, MTG does it right. Some people will disagree with that, but again, as you said, most gamers understand what they want, not necessarily what they need.
Yeah, this is true.
The point is, for Infinity Wars, we designed the game inherently different. We can't take the exact same processes for the same purpose that Wizards did it with MTG. They did it perfectly for their game.
Plus, you'll get sued.
No one can blame them for what they've done. MTG is an amazing product. It wouldn't have lasted this long if it wasn't.
Right.
The point is, Infinity Wars is a different game by design. We have to do somewhat different processes for the purpose of accommodating what we've done with our design. And like I said, it is a good thing that we developed these factions, but it also introduces a bad thing. Because people do, in fact, get emotionally attached to these factions, and that was inherent in the design. But we also have the problem where we can't just keep the factions sitting there for year after year after year after year. It will kill the game.
Yeah.
It will kill it.
So you've got a post coming about this.
Yeah. I have a post that I'm going to... I'm in the process of creating it. Once it's created, I have to wait for it to get approved, and then I can put it up on the forums. But okay. I want this concept to be as transparent as possible, because it is a concern, and I understand the concern. Some games have done this very, very wrong. I get that. Rotation is a scary thing. Rotation is a very scary thing, especially when you are emotionally attached to your collection and you're sitting there thinking, oh god, my faction is dead. I'm never going to be able to play it again. My cards are useless. Why did I ever spend this money? I get the questions. I do. Rotation is scary. Just understand that we understand those questions.
So you're aware of the problems that could erupt, and you are tackling these things, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not
now
only have
now I want to see the post.
Everyone's going to once they see this video. But hopefully, if all goes right, the post may be up before the video.
Maybe.
Don't count your chickens.
Can I count my mooses? Can I count the
mooses? You can, if you'd like. Absolutely.
Count the mooses.
But I want, and thankfully I was able to get this approved, that we are able to be as transparent as humanly possible with this. Not just with the rotation concept, but what actually came out of this design review. The design review took a long time, and it yielded some really, really good results. But the point is, we realized that we've done some things wrong, and we have to address them now. If we don't address them now, right now, it's going to take far too long to make things right.
Out of curiosity, is there a reason why you waited to do this sort of mass overhaul post-gold? Because I know that's a question that someone's going to be sitting there in the audience. I'm looking at you. You're sitting there going, they should have left beta on there and done this. I'm looking at you, so trust me, I'm getting your questions, your psychic vibes from the future. Just curious.
The point is, we designed Infinity Wars with a certain thing in mind. And we've had this question asked internally over a year. This discussion has been a long time coming. The only reason that it didn't happen during beta is because this isn't a beta problem. This isn't something that is something that rears its ugly head while you're still developing a game. This is something that rears its ugly head when you realize the game's live, we're going to have to do X.
Interesting.
Did we address X in our original concept of design? The answer to that is yes. We had a concept. The concept was discussed heavily. However, due to recent changes, due to recent mentality alterations, and due to what's necessary for the future of Infinity Wars, that concept unfortunately no longer applies.
Right. Okay, so this kind of actually leads to another question that we have, because when you're talking about changing a game, there's multiple things that can be used to change a game. Now, you're talking about a very terrifying concept because you're a Teremus, and obviously the Teremus will put his big cloppy claws down on the keyboard and reveal to all soon, because now you've basically got me sitting here by a hook, wheel me in, and I can't be woven in until I have that post. But there has been mention in the past by Shumasaurus, hopefully got the name right, who once stated something to the effect...
She is a terrifying dinosaur.
Excellent. Who once stated something to the effect that there might be a card forge. It was a long time away, if ever. Is there actually a plan to, say, introduce a forge at some point? Because that could change the game. You know, maybe before, after Two-Headed Giant? Two-Headed Giant? Go on, Two-Headed Giant.
I know that's definitely something you want pretty heavily.
I want Two-Headed Giant.
I love that
so
format.
bad. I want it so bad.
There are two team formats that myself and our lead developer Ian Underwood really, really, really like. Both of us love Two-Headed Giant and Cube.
Really?
Cube drafting is freaking fun. I love cube drafting.
So when it comes to this game called Infinity Wars, you know, there's this card game out there called Infinity Wars. I've heard that the people involved really, really, really like Two-Headed Giant.
Where'd you hear that?
Some crazy moose, I think, maybe.
Probably lying to you.
Oh, come on. The entire purpose behind everything we've done is for me to say and find out, will there be Two-Headed Giant? Will there be a forge?
The answer to both questions is yes. One of the things that we're currently working on, and this is something that I've tried to state and emphasize heavily, especially for the 2015 development, is server-side infrastructure. Currently, with the game, peer-to-peer creations is so bad for teams. If you tried to do a 2v2 match with peer-to-peer, your match would desync in the first turn. Simply because you've got two clients that are connected that have to send information back and forth to each other. Then those two clients have to send information to the other two clients somewhere across the world. Those two clients have to send back and forth information. Then it has to send it back to you. No.
And then it also has to be quality checked to make certain that it came in correctly, and it also needs to be quality checked in case there is a delay in the response. And there's a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to design that's annoying.
Anyone in the States knows a little kid's game called Telephone. Most other people will refer to it as Chinese whispers. That's exactly what a desync is. Literally. It is a client speaking to a client so many times that eventually the information gets jumbled. One tiny little string of code is sent incorrectly. And that will cause a chain reaction that is literally Chinese whispers, where the message, by the time it gets back to the original client, is completely different. That, my friends, is a desync.
1 turns into a 0, or a 0 turns into a 1. That's all it takes.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
It is, in fact, a desync. And that's where it comes from. And this whole concept of peer-to-peer client discussion doesn't really work. It works when you're trying to create a game on a shoestring budget, which we still are, but we understand the necessity that server-side infrastructure opens up a lot to us. One, it opens up spectating.
Yes! I'm obviously assuming, because I am a bit of a security bitch and I love esports and stuff like that, but I hate cheating and I really don't believe in it. And anyone who cheats, burn in hell. But, you know, obviously there's going to be some kind of implementation where you say hide the cards of the players that are present, or maybe even allow friends to see the cards that their friends are playing, so they could learn like a master apprentice?
May even be so far as you only see the resolution phase. We don't know. We don't know.
So you guys, you're in the development phase, but the end result is this is a decision you have made, and this is now what you are working towards. So it's not like you're going to turn around tomorrow and go, "We're not doing that." You are doing server.
We're working on server-side infrastructure.
Okay.
That's the current discussion. That's the current desire. The implications. Excuse me. There we go. The implications of server-side infrastructure are vast. The primary one there is spectating, because it allows the server to host a match, and for us to implement a feature that allows you to view a match that is being hosted. For us to do spectating on peer-to-peer connections would be even worse than what I just said with 2v2. Your client, when you are spectating a match, may actually see things happen completely differently than what's actually happening in the match, because it has to get information from those two clients.
Right.
That would not work at all. And it would even put a strain on the two people trying to play the match, because their clients have to have more communication. Good luck with that bandwidth. Sorry, I know. You think playing a game in Australia right now is bad?
That's the thing. I understand server architecture. I understand hardware architecture. I understand network architecture. I understand the whole programming concepts behind it, because I've done this stuff before in the past. So I'm just sitting here thinking about it, and it's what I see now. I don't know if you're familiar with dark fiber, but what I see now is all these lines laying across the bottom of the ocean with tiny mooses with rainbows and a Nyan Cat song playing. And every time someone says, "Oh, I'm going to watch that game because this is somebody, oh, I know, Teremus is playing. We need to go watch Teremus play." And then you see another little Nyan Cat moose, or a Nyan moose as I'm seeing it in my brain. And I just see this giant tube of Nyan mooses, and that's what's going through my head, because that's the way it works. The throughput, it grows so massively that you can crash servers because you only have so many ports up available to actually have a connection, and there's still other things that need to be done.
Effectively, for those who aren't aware of what Pseudo is talking about right now, that is what we refer to in the industry as a DDoS.
Yes. There's only so many sessions that can be handled. And while those things can be balanced out with proper load balancers, if you want to start getting into F5s and maybe Zeuses and other things to that accord, we can, but that's out of the scope here. What we do know is in Infinity Wars, the scope is we're getting server architecture, which will allow for us to have spectator mode. Two-headed giant is coming, as is a forge. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting you to turn around tomorrow and say two-headed giants in the game tomorrow, but I'm sorry, two-headed giant, I'm going to have to ask. Any estimation. Now, I notice I'm not saying date, because
I know
that doesn't work in this. But I mean, is it something that I could look at in a year?
There's a lot we can do in a year.
Okay.
There is a lot we can do in a year.
So you aren't turning down the concept. You definitely are going to be bringing this. Okay.
No, we want teams. We want the capability for friends to play with friends against other friends. There is nothing more enjoyable than that. If you're playing a card game, there is nothing more enjoyable than being able to match against your friends in a team with one of your best friends. It's just one of the great things about strategy games.
I know.
It doesn't matter if it's card games. It's strategy games in its entirety.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, folks, but if you think a card game's not strategy, you're in the wrong industry. Card games, there's a reason why Top Draw is a TCG, CCG, SCG show.
What strategy,
about LCG? Well, only on the third Thursday of every month that ends in Y?
There you go.
I have no idea. Okay.
But, so the point is we want to have team matches. We want to have what's more commonly referred to as multiplayer matches.
Right.
There's two versions of multiplayer. So most people view multiplayer as a game that involves people playing against people. That's multiplayer without the hyphen. If you see multiplayer with the hyphen between multi and player, that means multiple players in the same match. Not just 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, free-for-all, two-headed giant, cube drafting, whatever it might be. These are things that we desire because we recognize how awesome they are.
Okay, so the implementation of the server is obviously going to help with that, because
Yep.
when you have something like that set up, you actually have the foundational bricks laid to allow for the multiplayer environment beyond just simply, hey, I'm connecting to Bob, Bob responds to me with a ping, let's play.
Absolutely.
So this is a good
And
thing.
that's why server architecture has such a vast implication for what it actually means for the development of Infinity Wars. It means so much. You know, we're talking about multiplayer matches. We're talking about spectating. We're talking about the ability to host all of these on a server, and that opens up a lot of options for us.
It does, and it also opens up a hell of a lot of work because you need to have your backups, you need to do security. There's so much stuff you need to do when you start introducing that kind of architecture. I take my hat off to your network admin, because honestly,
he does a lot of work.
The guy needs a medal. So obviously, if you're pulling together this awesome server thing, you're going to be able to produce a situation where an API is going to be present for people to use, right?
Yep. And that's been in the works for a lot longer than server architecture has been in the works. But for those who aren't aware, an API isn't trivial.
Sorry.
A lot of people, I've seen so many comments in the dealings with Infinite Network where people just say, just make an API. Like, just make it and let them use it. Do you really think that's all that an API means? I'm not a programmer. I am a moose. I don't understand anything about coding. Okay? I don't understand anything about coding. However, if I ask a simple question, if I Google, like literally, if you go to Google right now and literally just type in, how do you make a public API? Good luck finding a tutorial that takes you a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Well,
do you have an intricate understanding of programming? Do you have an intricate understanding of server architecture and how a program can pull information from server architecture? Do you have an intricate understanding of how to pass that out and how to allow people to pull that information to various public websites without risking security?
Yeah, you're going to do it through XML? You're going to use JSON? Are you going to use pushes, pulls?
These are questions that the moose does not know. The point is,
obviously you can ask the people who are involved in development. I mean,
yeah, I can.
I mean, I'm sure they're going to turn around and just look at you and go, are you nuts? Have you seen my bug list? Have you seen my to-do list?
And that's one of the other answers to this question is the same guy who does the API is the same guy I was just talking about. The same guy that's doing the server architecture. Guy? Yeah. This is an indie studio.
Can I just tell you, that guy and I need to at some point in time get together for drinks. Because
he needs a good stiff one.
As doing what I do, considering I handled the entire website, I do post-production, I'm in charge of so much to do with everything at MMOBuff, plus I do web development, web design, and I'm called on to help clean out people's servers from malicious code. I take my hat off to him. In fact, I take the moose's hat off, and I put a Mexican hat on the moose, and I make the moose dance, the cucaracha. Because honestly, that is hard work.
It is. And that's usually what's necessary in an indie studio. We don't just do one job. 11 people.
11 people in total.
11 people, yeah. In total. That's including artists, management, support.
Does that include the moose?
Yes.
And yet you guys are able to pull out a game that offers variety, richness of concept, the ability for people to hang out and have the community that you have. Yep. I want what you're drinking. Because, yeah, drinking water myself. That's
oh,
not
you thought
easy.
this was water.
And now you guys know what the Moose drinks. Clear alcoholic beverages. That's how you keep the Muse cooled. But it's
the same guy that does the website, that does the server structure, that does the back-end development, is the same guy that has to do the API. We all wear a ridiculous amount of hats. That's how an indie studio works. We all do a stupid amount of work that doesn't actually pertain to our role or job title.
Right.
We all just have to work. That's what an indie studio is about. That's what indie development is. Doing a stupid amount of work because you can and you care. It's not that you're getting a paycheck. It's not that you're getting a salary. It's that you honestly believe in this project.
Sounds an awful lot like the Infinity's War Council. That's what did you sort of base it? Did you sort of base the council concept off of what you guys do as a group?
Well, that's what the council is in all actuality is. This is just a group of people who seriously care about Infinity Wars and just want to help.
Huh. Okay.
That's what it is. And that's what indie development is about. And for those who are just saying, hey, make an API and give it to Infinite Network, it's not that easy.
How about if I up the ante one step further?
Sure.
For anybody who wishes to kind of get into game development, I'm going to tell you a little secret. If you follow anything from our shows, you know we have a game jam coming up. You think you can take concept and go to prototype in 48 hours? Step up to the plate.
Nice.
December.
I'll give anyone this challenge. If you are accepting that challenge, someone make a tower defense. I love tower defense games.
You want someone to make a tower defense game in 48 hours?
You think you're that good? Bring it.
We'll see what happens, because I still have to pick the topic for the game jam. But it's a game jam for charity. It will be streamed live on Twitch. I highly recommend it. If you think you've got it.
Once that goes off, let me know.
It's December 12th to the 14th.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I will throw out.
I'd love to help promote that. That's good. That's a good cause.
We're looking to go with probably Child's Play, along with Operation Supply Drop, and a couple of other ones as well, because
I know a lot of people who are really in deep with Operation Supply Drop, so I'll reach out to them too.
That would be awesome. Yeah. One of our hosts here on our community show called The Campfire, he is a retired veteran. Unfortunately, he has to spend some of his time in a wheelchair because he has a really injured back, but he is all for Operation Supply Drop. And I love charities.
It's a wonderful cause.
I love charities, and I also love putting people through the ringer and causing them to go slightly insane, trying to produce a game in 48 hours that will be sold.
Nice.
That is going to be things. So I challenge you. I see you folks, and I lay the gauntlet down. And that was a really horrible accent, and I'm really sorry. I won't do it again. However, we are getting close to the time where I need to end this, because otherwise I'll keep you here forever, and you and I will just get lost in conversation. So I'm going to wrap up a couple of questions in one, and then I'm going to let you have your final say on things. Okay. Now, your role is many hats, wear them, but in general, you're responsible for the community, and you're seen as a community manager. Your role is going to change from pre to post launch, probably because you're going to take more shit on your shoulders, to be perfectly blunt.
Already done that.
Alrighty then, more hats. So at least we know what to get you for the holidays. Get you a variety of hats and maybe some beards and stuff.
Just get me a really nice hat rack. Just
a hat rack.
I just want something to hang them on.
Awesome.
That's it.
So what I'm going to do is going to let you tell people a little bit about what you are looking for feedback, how people can really bring feedback to you. Because the people who like to type in all caps in red on the forums is not necessarily going to get across to you as clearly as someone who maybe follows a different format. So I'll let you stress that. Okay. I'd also like for you to tell people about that bloody awesome forum post that you put up last night about the stuff you've got coming up with tournaments, with Twitch, and some of the things you've got planned. Skin. Yeah, oh god, that skin. Oh,
I love that skin.
That skin is amazing. That artist, I will take him out to dinner, or her.
It's the same guy that works on our cards. The same guy who actually did Teremus, Shiraz Domingo.
Okay, so basically, I owe them cake.
Yeah,
Because
he loves cake.
your cards are what drew me in and kept me. Beyond just everything else,
Our
it's what
our
allowed me.
artists are amazing. Martin,
Oh,
Pat, and Shiraz.
scary
Literally the
good.
three of them. The three
Scary
of them.
good.
They are so good. And he did Teremus. I have
Anyone
to
who does Teremus apparently is elevated. So he did Teremus. You other artists just move to the side.
Shiraz, if you're watching this, I still owe you cake. She owes you cake too, but I'll get you cake.
We got cake. We got cake covered. But yes,
so
the feedback and how to get to you, what you think is going to happen with changes, and what new stuff you've got coming for the community. Because in the end, Infinity Wars is a community.
It is, and our community is awesome. I can't thank these guys enough, not only for creating a welcoming environment. In today's gaming industry, a welcoming environment is hard to come by.
Ooh.
For whatever reason, people love being toxic. People love being egotistical. I can't explain it, but I can't thank this community enough for not being that way. You guys have made such a good environment for a new player to come in and learn this game.
I can speak from proof there.
Yeah, and I seriously cannot thank this community enough for being a group of well-rounded, level-headed gamers. That's what it boils down to. I really do thank you guys for being that way. It not only makes my job easier, but it makes talking to you a lot easier because there's very difficult positions that I'm put in, and one of the best things I've ever seen as a description of a community manager is someone who has to say horrible things and make them sound really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me to be able to talk to this community in a respectful light and have them actually discuss things with me means a lot. A lot of people will generally just come back at me and say, Moose, seriously, you suck. You're an ass. I hate you for making these decisions. I hate you for ruining the game that I love. Like we said earlier, everyone has a different perspective of what they want. Unfortunately, we have to make decisions based off of what's necessary. And that's going to, put me in a position where I have to talk to a whole bunch of different people in a whole bunch of different ways about a whole bunch of different things. And I cannot thank this community enough for allowing me to actually talk. That's a big thing. It's actually being able to converse with players. It means a lot. So thank you, and thank you for being awesome. In terms of the post that I put up last night, we put up Twitch content
at the bottom,
right down there.
It's gonna be linked down there.
Look at it. Just click on it.
Oh, click it. Sorry, go ahead.
So we put up Twitch content. We put up tournament information. We put up best of 3 in sideboards and ranked reset information, and information regarding the ranked tournament that I'll be putting up for the top 8 active ranked players. There's a whole bunch of content in there, and I put up the forum skin, which looks awesome. But the point of a post like that is to show people that we are, in fact, doing things. We are working. We are doing quite a bit of work. And it's not always exactly what people agree with, but it's always what we feel is necessary. Based off of the feedback that we get, based off of the information... Good Lord, excuse me. Based off of the information that we get back from our players, it helps us to do our job not only a lot faster, but a lot more efficiently. And that comes back to the question of how can players give Lightmare feedback on Infinity Wars. First off, let me give you an example of what feedback isn't. This is terrible, this is garbage, I hate this specific thing, please change it. I appreciate your thoughts and your emotions on the concept, that doesn't actually give us anything to work with. Everyone will always have a different way of voicing their opinions and voicing their thoughts. If you want to actually convey your thoughts, speak about your thoughts, not about the thing that you hate. Because just telling us that you hate something doesn't really help.
Oh, God.
If we have 1 million people saying that they hate something, sure, that means that we need to address it. It means that we need to look at it. But it doesn't give us any insight into how the community and player base feels it could be altered to be improved. That's the big key to it, is how can we view something that can be improved if people hate it? Okay, if people are saying that they hate it, we obviously know that there's something wrong with it. Knowing that something is wrong is maybe less than 15% of the battle. It's really obvious to spot that something isn't liked, or something isn't appreciated, or that something is wrong. How you can change it to improve it, and how you can execute that alteration in a smooth and elegant manner is the other 85%.
Yeah. Oh, and then feed it back to the people who had a problem with it in the first place so that they don't see it as another problem but a solution.
Yeah.
I can get behind that one. That one's a tough one.
Yeah, the execution is the big problem, because obviously those people had an issue with something in your game, and for the duration of that problem being in existence, they ceased play.
Right.
Now you have to tell them, hey, we changed it. We did in fact listen. Come back and try it. But a lot of people at that point will just say, okay, well, I didn't like your game in the first place. I gave you feedback. I hated it. I'm just going to go play a different game. That's fine. Honestly, if you want to go play a different game, go play a different game. I'm not going to sit here and force you to play Infinity Wars. You only play a game if you're having fun with it. That's what games are about, is to have fun. Just enjoy playing a game. If you're not having fun with it, find something else. And I'm not saying that because I want to shun players away. I'm saying that because I want you to have fun. Playing games is about escaping real life. It's about escaping the woes and sufferings and disappointments that you have to face in day-to-day situations. Games are an escape from that. They're meant to be enjoyed. If you're not enjoying something, don't worry about it. We want you to enjoy Infinity Wars, and if you're not, tell us. Let us know that you're not enjoying something specific, and tell us why you're not enjoying it. We'll listen.
That's the key.
We'll work on it. Yeah, tell us why you're not enjoying it. Yeah, just telling us that you're not enjoying it doesn't really help us, because we have to do a lot more digging than that.
I hate that. I get feedback on many things that we do, and I've seen some feedback come in from some companies that I've helped, and the worst thing is I hate this design. Why?
This specific thing that I don't actually understand sucks. Change it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. One of the greatest ones
Really?
I've had come in is, I don't like that shade of green. Give us a different one. Do you want it to be darker, lighter? Do you want it to have more neon? Do you want it to be more yellow? Do you want it to have some kind of gray in it? Do you want it to sparkle? Oh, or the worst one, jazz it up.
Can you bedazzle your website? Do that.
Oh my God, I want to smack you with a gif of one of those construction gifs. Just want to smack you with a gif.
No, I understand why people just say they dislike something. It's very easy to say. It is. It's very easy for someone who's not having a good experience to just say, I hate this. It is very easy for someone to say that. I just want gamers to understand it doesn't actually do much for us. It allows us to recognize that there is something that's not appreciated. That's valuable, absolutely. But it doesn't tell us how we can address it. And we have to take a lot of time and a lot of digging in order to understand how we can address a situation and improve it. If we have a whole bunch of information being thrown at us, and again, this goes back to the concept of players, and this, I got this from Pseudo. I'm going to use this. It is so incredibly accurate. So many different players have their own perspective of everything. And as Pseudo said, players more often than not understand what they want, not necessarily what they need. As game developers, I can assure you, we hear every different perspective. You think you know what balance is? The person next to you thinks he knows what balance is. The other person next to him believes he knows what balance is. And all three of you have different ideas. Do you want us to listen to all three of them? Do you want us to implement each one of them singularly and test which one works? Because I guarantee you both of those processes are going to take a lot more time than it takes for us to simply evaluate a situation and improve it based off of what's needed rather than simply what's wanted.
Yeah. Now, Teremus, I was told that it was going to be very difficult to interview you because you had no opinions. You were not capable of really expressing yourself. Like, you can't type fast. And I basically was told that sitting down and talking with you would be a very short conversation. I'd like to state that's wrong. You are an incredibly verbose individual. Actually, the reality is we were told that you have opinions on a scale of like scales, and that you see things not necessarily black and white, but you see definitives, and it is really refreshing.
Oh, I definitely see them in that light. It is very necessary that I see the fact of a matter rather than simply viewing
the emotion.
The very confusing concepts around the fact, because there's a million different things that's going to go around the fact. The fact is what matters.
Right.
And everyone's going to have a different perspective on that fact.
Yep. I hate to say it, folks, but nobody sees reality exactly the same way. But in all honesty, I have had an absolute treat and joy chatting with you.
Same.
I will be in touch more frequently, because now that I see your perspective, I'm thinking I might just put you on the campfire and grill you. The Campfire is literally our community show. It is all about
I will
trying
inform
to
you,
empower
however, that roasted meese is not. That's not. It doesn't taste good. We are very tough. We do have to be beaten and sautéed. Otherwise, we're just not. We're very difficult to eat. So
that's okay. You make great throw rugs.
Yes.
You're good for something.
I make wonderful wall decoration.
Oh, amazing wall decoration. Hey, you could hang your hats on yourself.
Yes! We've found my hat rack.
Solution. We've got it. See? From concept to solution. All we needed to know is what was needed, and we knew what was needed. See, we'll just leave it at that. But I want to thank you. But I will be back in touch with you. Don't think I'm letting you off the hook. I will tell you, Infinity Wars is the first TCG that after I've played it, I really, really want to keep playing it. So that says something, at least from my perspective. And again, I'm just one random woman on the internet who has opinions and a braid. Take my opinion for what it's worth. Hell, Marsh and I will tell you, take our score for what it's worth. But honestly, if you are a TCGer, if you like TCGs, you need to get involved or at least try this. I was skeptical as fuck until I played it.
A lot of people should be, to be honest. The genre, the industry itself, has so many different options. If you are a card gamer, if you are looking at playing a digital card game, it's not a bad thing because you have a whole bunch of different options available to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you should absolutely be concerned about which kind of card game you want to play. There are a whole bunch of different card games out there with a whole bunch of different intentions. And those people who try and compare Hearthstone to Infinity Wars, you can't. Hearthstone was designed with a very, very different demographic in mind.
And it's also a CCG. It's not a TCG.
Absolutely. And if anyone from Blizzard is watching this, I have to say, for the purpose that Hearthstone was designed, it was done beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. However, it was done with a different intention than Infinity Wars.
This is true.
Infinity Wars, quite literally, is on the opposite spectrum of Hearthstone. You can try and compare them, and I assure you, in terms of economics, we are comparing them internally. In terms of design, these are two very, very different games.
Yep.
And I ask that people understand that. Don't try and the easiest thing in the world is to compare games. You see, say, a game like my favorite MOBA, personally, is Smite. I absolutely freaking love Smite. Those people that go in there and say Smite is just a ripoff of League. League was a ripoff of Dota, which is a Warcraft 3 mod. Every game is a ripoff of everything. You want to try and tell me that there's a song somewhere in today's current lifestyle that wasn't a version in some way of a song back in the 70s or 80s? Ripoffs happen, and they're not intended. They are designed with different purpose. Don't try and compare them to other games simply because they are the same genre. Every game has a different purpose, and I implore you to explore those purposes. You may find a game that you didn't think you'd like, and you may end up really liking it.
I can't wait till you see what I do with that section in post-edit. I really can't. But yes, okay. Seriously, Teremus, thank you so much. We've had a hell of a time actually scheduling and everything because of where you're located versus where I'm located. But, thank you for coming on. I will be in touch with you, mister. And at some point in time, you and I, mano y mano, you will kick my ass, but it'll be worth it. And it'll be fun. Now, see, that's an awesome voice. Can you do that for a very long time?
I love that voice. It's
Is that your inner demon moose?
Yeah, that's actually the moose talking. Like, this is my human form.
This is actually the moose. So...
What you should do now is you should record that into the game, so when someone draws a card, you could just say, "You drew a card," or something like that.
I want it specifically for the Teremus.
Infinity Wars TCG, the Moose Edition. I now want one.
I just want it specifically for the Teremus. I just want a sound effect that when Teremus is played, he says, "Fear me."
I want him to say cookies.
That's all I want. That's not too much to ask.
I want cookies. No. I need cookies. I need
cookies. Are good. you should seek to obtain cookies.
Oh, most definitely. But on that note, it leaves me to say to you guys, thank you so very much. We will be in touch. And remember, if you have any questions or anything, get in touch with us at MMOBuff.TV. Find us all over the place. And if you actually do want to take up this challenge of getting involved in game design, yeah, get in touch. I challenge you.
All those people who always say, "Man, this is easy. You should be able to do this in 5 seconds." Show us you do it in 5 seconds.
Bring it.
Bring it on.
Moose, bring it. End the show with Moose, bring it.
Bring it on.